Right, 7 June 2024. And today I'm excited to be giving you the Friday update. So this is very, very interesting for me. On Fridays, I give you a lot of stories of what is happening around the country. And I'm going to move very, very quickly. I want to start with what is happening. So Auxilia Mnangagwa, she is in the news most of the time. And the reason is she's always in the public eye. She's trying to do a lot. But what has happened yesterday has shocked many people. So Auxilia Mnangagwa, she put out buses yesterday in the rural areas around Mudzi and Kotwa villages. And by 3 a.m., she was busing villagers to a mobile clinic that she was conducting with some American citizens. So these people are not funded by the American government. I'm going to give you more detail of who these guys are. But Auxilia Mnangagwa did bus hundreds of female villagers, and you can see them here under her Angel of Hope Foundation. And these villagers, most of them are not sick, but she was taking them to this place where she was conducting sort of like a health outreach. And the doctor who was here is called Dr. Eric Rose, and he operates something called Zimbabwe Care. And Zimbabwe Care brought about 22 doctors from the United States, most of them volunteers. And this all happened because Auxilia Mnangagwa is likely funding Zimbabwe Care. I've looked at the funders, the people who fund Zimbabwe Care, and most of these funders are not connected to the American government. They are private funders. And I saw that they were also looking for donations of trucks. And I suspect that Auxilia Mnangagwa is somehow connected to the operations of Zimbabwe Care. I am a bit surprised that American citizens are involved in the activities of Auxilia Mnangagwa, because my understanding is that Auxilia Mnangagwa is under sanctions and American citizens are not supposed to be operating with Auxilia Mnangagwa. However, the important thing here is that hundreds of villagers were woken up around 3 a.m. They passed them to this location and they were forced to conduct tests. So screening tests such as breast cancer, cervical cancer, and HIV tests. And after that, they were forced to sing and chant ZANU-PF slogans and also to sing songs praising Mnangagwa. This happened yesterday, and I've got video footage of the whole thing. However, I want to show you Dr. Eric Rosen speaking here. Eric Rose speaking. So let's see him speaking and what he said here.
To provide, I'm sure you've seen the number of patients that we have here. It's just phenomenal. For the first 5-6 years, we were really focused on the healthcare and brought a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses down. But what that did is that limited the size of my team. So all I could bring down was 10, 15 physicians and nurses and go to help build schools, build new mother waiting shelters, those kinds of things. And that's what we enjoy, because now I can bring people who don't have medical background.
Right, so you can clearly see that Dr. Eric Rose doesn't understand what's going on. He's being used for propaganda purposes by Auxilia Mnangagwa. Auxilia Mnangagwa has got a particular political objective, and this is linked to her attempt to make sure that the Mnangagwa family continues beyond 2030 to rule Zimbabwe, especially with the sons. She wants the sons to take over, and she's conducting these massive campaigns all over the country, all over Zimbabwe, where she brings in women, university students, and other disadvantaged people, like people who are disabled. And she does all these outreach programs, whilst it's actually a campaign. Because if it was not a campaign, why then force people to chant ZANU-PF slogans? Because after this, everyone was made to chant ZANU-PF slogans, dance to ZANU-PF songs, and it's not a health outreach. It's a ZANU-PF rally. Basically, she's running rallies, Auxilia Mnangagwa. That is what is happening. So that's our headline for today. Auxilia Mnangagwa roping in an American NGO to perform some sort of rally where she forced the villagers to come. She bussed them. They were put into buses around 3 a.m. in the morning, and they were dumped at this place where the outreach was taking place. The American doctors were not aware that these people did not come of their own. They were actually bussed into this place, and most of them were healthy. They were just being told to go for screening, which they did not need. So hundreds and hundreds of people were over here. And after that, they were forced to sing and dance to ZANU-PF slogans. So this is a rally, and let's keep watching what happens to Auxilia Mnangagwa. I don't think she's going to get far with this. She briefly stopped, but she started again, and it's something quite concerning. Then I want to go to what has happened yesterday. Mnangagwa has moved from South Korea empty-handed. The whole delegation of Mnangagwa has left South Korea, and they're using this plane here. So Mnangagwa is now in St. Petersburg to attend the St. Petersburg International Forum, Business Forum, which takes 4 days. So we expect Mnangagwa to be back in Zimbabwe in 4 days' time, which is by Monday. He should be back in Zimbabwe because he's got another conference in Victoria Falls next week. So Mnangagwa is going to be addressing another conference next week in Victoria Falls. You remember the one that I said is got Brian Kagoro. So we expect to see Mnangagwa over here in this very expensive summit, which costs about $3,000 to attend. If you are going to attend this conference, it costs about $3,000, and it's got quite some big speakers here like Ken Sharpe, Brian Kagoro, and all these guys that are here. I'll upload this post again for you so that you can see who's over here. So Mnangagwa is going to be back on Monday. Mnangagwa is wandering aimlessly from summit to summit, and it does not make sense. There is nothing coming out of all these summits that Mnangagwa is attending because of the issues, the political issues in Zimbabwe. And while that is something that is happening, I just wanted to update you guys that the bishop has issued a statement last night. So I'm going to post the statement from the bishop. He sent me a voice note, so I'm going to share the voice note with you. There's going to be a press conference regarding the demonstration that is going to be held between the 17th and the 19th of August against Mnangagwa, calling for dialogue and for Mnangagwa to step down and fresh elections. And letters have been delivered, a whole lot of letters have been delivered, notifying a lot of organizations that churches are concerned about the rigging which took place in August last year when the elections were held. And some of the letters have been delivered to Mnangagwa, some of the letters have been delivered to Chamisa and to ZEC and a bunch of other organizations. So the bishop is going to issue that statement. I'm going to upload that voice note very shortly, within the next 2 hours. I'm going to upload that statement from bishop. So there's a lot happening, but right now Mnangagwa is in Russia. There's nothing that is going to come out of all these conferences that Mnangagwa is attending, because there's really no one who cares about Zimbabwe at the moment. The biggest problem being the ZIG. When Mnangagwa was in South Korea, the biggest concern that was raised was, how do we take our money out of Zimbabwe, given that your currency keeps collapsing? And they had to try to sign an MOU, but there's no one who believes the Mnangagwa government is capable of fixing the currency issues. The political risk in Zimbabwe is too high. And the only people who are currently operating in Zimbabwe as investors are people that are extracting. So people who quickly want to extract and get out of the country. That is how this thing is working. And then let's look quickly at other stories. I want to look at the report by the Sentry. So this report is in 2 newspapers today. That is the Independent and the Newsday newspaper. The Sentry has identified the CIO companies that are being used to fund all the activities of FARS. So if you know, Forever Zimbabwe is funding a lot of illicit activities from the CIO, and these are the companies here. So there's Terrestrial Holdings, Terrestrial Mining, White Lime Mining, Chimani Money Logistics, Chapel Mining, Sino Zimbabwe Development, Sino Zimbabwe Cotton Holdings, and Sino Zimbabwe Diamonds. All these companies, the documents are missing at the company registry. And this is how the CIO is able to buy cars for the campaigns of ZANU-PF, and also some of the cars that are being used by Witno Chivayo They're coming from these CIO-linked companies. And the century is saying these companies need to be dissolved because it is illegal to run such a company, which is not, because this is state, CIO is a state entity. And the center is saying these companies should be dissolved and this is illegal, what is happening here. Then in terms of South Africa, what is happening in South Africa is that the President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for the GNU, and the GNU partners are going to be the DA, the MK, and the EFF. So last night, the MK party has confirmed that they've gone into talks with the ANC. So President Jacob Zuma has been approached by Fikile Mbalula and has finally agreed to talk to the ANC. So there's going to be likely a senior position for one of the MK leaders. Julius Malema of EFF is also going to be in the GNU, and the DA has said they are most unlikely to be in a government that includes the MK and the EFF. So what you're likely going to see is the MK, the EFF, and the ANC eventually forming a coalition government, because the DA has said they're not likely to be in a GNU that includes MK and EFF. So this is what is happening. The biggest problem is the policy difference. You can see that ANC and the other two parties, they basically agree on everything. The only thing that they disagree is probably on BEE. However, the biggest sticking issue is the issues here around what's happening in Palestine. This one can't be solved. The DA is not going to back down on this one. The issue of land, there will never be agreement between the DA and the other two parties. Pre-education, minimum wage, NHI. So there are so many differences between the DA and all the other parties. They're not going to agree. And the DA has already said they're not going to be in agreement with all these other two parties. So the GNU is going to collapse. It won't happen with the DA in it. And obviously, that is a big problem because the extreme behavior of the EFF and MK and the ANC put together, it will turn South Africa into a banana republic. And most investors are very concerned about ANC, MK, and EFF coalition. That is going to be very, I don't know, it's not ideal. It's not ideal to have that kind of a setup where you have two extreme parties and a party that is really not very strong. The ANC is not very strong. Ideologically, they are vacillating from one side to another. So it's difficult to see where South Africa will go with these three political parties. Then I want to go into some entertainment news. So let's start with, in fact, before I go into entertainment news, let's go to Ken Sharpe. Ken Sharpe is a Zimbabwean, who was a Zimbabwean mercenary leader. He died this week at his farm in Cape Town, where he died of cancer. He was 80 years old, and Ken Sharpe was known for his company Minetech International, which was in demining activities. They did demining all over the world, including countries like Iraq and also Mozambique. They did a lot of demining there. They also had a mercenary group called the DAG Group, which he founded in 2012. And the last mission that they undertook was the mission in Mozambique, where they were defeated by the extremists. They failed to deal with extremists, and they had to leave after failing to defeat the extremists. As you know, the guys from Rwanda eventually cleared out the extremists in Mozambique, and Rwanda is right now in charge of security in Mozambique. So Ken Sharpe, the last mission that he had was very unsuccessful. He was co-opted by Mugabe from the Rhodesian army into the Zimbabwean army, where he trained Zanla and Zipra soldiers. And Ken Sharpe is very controversial. Some of his activities were considered to be quite extreme. However, as I said, he died this week at his farm in Cape Town of cancer. So that is Ken Sharpe, the Zimbabwean mercenary company owner. He was probably one of the few African mercenary company owners here who were left. Currently, we have very few that are left because this space of mercenaries is very tricky. Warfare has changed a lot, and it's no longer about mercenaries. It has moved to another level, and I think most governments do not want the mercenaries to operate. I then want to go to some entertainment news, and I'm going to start with the story of Ginimbi. So this is Ginimbi's father, Anderson, and Anderson has responded to Ishmael Amuli. So if you remember, earlier this week, I mentioned that Moana's father, so Moana is the young lady who died, Moana Amuli died in the car with Ginimbi. And her father, Ishmael Amuli, had said Ginimbi's father, Anderson, had not come to pay his condolences, and they had not even given him anything after her death. So the father of Ginimbi, who is Anderson, has responded and said he has done everything that was supposed to be done. Amuli should have understood that all the people that came to him were actually sent by him. So he's got no other obligations left. He believes he's got no other obligations left to the family of Moana and whatever he's talking. He talked in a very strange language, said, Jadakwa. That's what he said. There's nothing there for Ishmael Amuli to expect from Ginimbi's family. So whatever he was expecting, he's not going to get. The family of Ginimbi is adamant that there's nothing that is going to come to the family of Moana. Then I want to show you something very interesting. Detective Joseph Nemaisa, former detective, is now representing the armed robbers. So this is very odd. You know that he is the one who was involved in a shootout in which 5 soldiers were killed. So Detective Joseph Namaisa, who is now a lawyer, is representing Ojo on the left. You see that guy on the left there? And this story is in H Metro newspaper. You can go and see that story over there. This whole group was arrested at a lodge in Harare after a shootout in which Zimbabwe socialite, God knows, Machingura, was killed in a shootout. And they were demanding that the state should provide evidence that God knows Machingura was killed, including a postmortem. So they wanted that information to be provided. However, the judge has refused to provide those documents. And as I said, the lawyer is Joseph Nemaisa, who is known for his Rambo style shooting of armed robbers at his house in Harare a few years ago. And more details have emerged, which is that the robbers, the guys who are, you've seen the pictures here, were trying to rob Kwekwe businessmen, Pochimbodza. That is what is being said here in the H Metro newspaper. So you can go and have a look at that story. And probably there'll be more details over there on what is happening. Then I want to look at this advert, a very interesting advert. A Zambian university called Manika University is actually advertising in Zimbabwe for pharmacists, and they are only looking for 3 A levels. So that is Manika University. The education system in Zimbabwe is collapsed, and hundreds of students, Zimbabwean students, are currently in Zambia, where they're studying in the universities in Zambia. They're mostly private universities, and these universities are charging much less than a normal Zimbabwean university. And this is one of the universities here. It's called Manika University. And you can study things like pharmacy with 3 A levels, which is crazy. I've never seen such a low entry bar. And I wonder if these guys are going to be able to function as pharmacists over there. And then obviously Kazembe has donated or delivered 36 vehicles to the immigration department. And I think this is to beef up the patrols. The patrols have been very inefficient at the border with Zimbabwe, especially the border with Mozambique. There's too much smuggling taking place over there. the border of South Africa, people are just jumping the border as if there's no border there. And the South Africans have tried to put up a new fence, but that has not worked. So now let's go and look at the newspapers. I want to check out the Herald newspaper. And I think the Herald newspaper is probably going to have a lot of stories today. Let's look at Herald Zimbabwe. So Herald newspaper is quite a good newspaper in terms of content. They compare very well with other newspapers that I see here in South Africa. H Metro doing very well for entertainment, very unique style that they have. But in terms of if you want to actually get adverts and stuff, you have to look at the Herald newspaper. So let's look at what the Herald newspaper is saying. The Herald newspaper is leading with the Putin picture here with Mnangagwa. So Mnangagwa is sitting with Putin, and you can see the body language. So I want to explain to you what body language says. So Putin is sitting back into his chair, and he's looking very uninterested in whatever Mnangagwa is saying. Mnangagwa is trying to pretend as if he's making a point to Putin. And Putin is like, when is this thing going to end? I need to go. So this is what is happening here with Mnangagwa. And then if you look at this story that I was giving you here, Health Ambassador and Angel Hope Foundation founder and patron, First Lady Dr. Comrade Auxilia Mnangagwa, interacts some of the 25 medical doctors and nurses she invited from the United States through the Angel Hope Foundation for medical outreach in Mashonaland East. So as I explained to you, Auxilia Mnangagwa paid for the Americans to come here. These guys are not funded by the American government. I've looked at the funders. Zimbabwe is not funded by the Zimbabwe Care. So I want to clarify this situation. Zimbabwe Care is not funded by the American government. It's funded by some organization that, like some companies. So I think let's do it so that I assure you. I don't want people to be confused here. This is not an official American mission, so that we don't have a misunderstanding. So let me show you who is funding Zimbabwe Care. So Zimbabwe Care, and I think my system is somehow changed here. So this is Zimbabwe Care. This is the organization which is working with Auxilia Mnangagwa. And as I said, it's crazy that the Americans are allowing these guys to operate in Zimbabwe when Auxilia Mnangagwa is on sanctions. So these are private companies that are funding Zimbabwe Care. So what happens is they get donations. So they can approach Mnangagwa and say, Auxilia Mnangagwa and say, we need a truck. So you can see that they're looking for the trucks here. And then if you look at their team, right? So let's look at the team. This is a family business. So let me show you. There's Eric and Brandy Ross on the left. Then there's Jeff and Natalie Ross there on the right. And then we've got Jared Morton here at the center, Kate and Natalie Bones. So these are the people who are in the team, right? And then if you go down here, you see that they've got Ray and Dokas Tsuru. I don't know if these are married doctors. And so this is basically a family business, and it's not an American government-led mission. So I was starting to get confused if American government is now sponsoring Auxilia Mnangagwa, but it's not the case. This is more like a family business which gets sponsorship, and Auxilia Mnangagwa has brought them with their own money into Zimbabwe to pretend as if Americans are supporting whatever she's doing. But obviously, Jeff and Natalie Ross and Eric and Brandy Ross, they will understand that we're not crazy when we're saying Mnangagwa arkuraya vanhu nenzara. So what we mean is everything that you see that you're trying to address is actually caused by the person that is inviting you. So if Mnangagwa and Auxilia were to stop, then you won't need to be there to do these kind of things. Right now, Eric is saying they want to go into house building. They want to go into construction, into charity work. The reason why you're going to charity work is because Mnangagwa has destroyed the economy, and Mnangagwa's policies are crazy, including introducing a currency and not rolling it out. So Mnangagwa has introduced a currency called the ZiG, and no one has seen the ZiG, the cash ZiG. And Mnangagwa and his close people around him in the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe are creating fake money through electronic balances, which they dump into the market through swipe machines. That is why you never see the cash, the actual cash. I can go on and on explaining to you what is wrong with the Zimbabwe government and what's wrong with the Mnangagwa's government, which is why Zimbabweans are going on strike. Currently, we are dealing with the case of murdered pastor Tafmani Masaya, who was murdered in December by ZANU-PF-linked politicians who are linked to Mavuki MP Scott Sakupanya. The employees abducted him, took him to a dam and left his naked body over there. And the police, led by Commissioner Matanga, are refusing to investigate that murder. So now that Eric and Natalie and Jeff, you guys are in Zimbabwe, go over to the police and ask what is happening with the case of murdered Pastor Tafmani Masaya, why the police are refusing to investigate. I have personally had to go. Right now, starting today, we're doing a freedom of information request to find out why police are not investigating the murder of Pastor Tafmani Masai. So these are the kind of things that I'm explaining. Do not think you're doing God's work when you're in Zimbabwe, because those guys over there, they are the worst human rights violators that you can find. There is massive human rights violations taking place in Zimbabwe, including during that very operation that this Zimbabwe was taking. People were bussed from their houses. They were made to go and undergo HIV tests, breast cancer tests, and cervical cancer tests without proper counseling. And after this, who knows what's going to happen? So these are the kind of things that I'm talking about in terms of Auxilia Mnangagwa. She's very ambitious, and she does crazy things that you cannot explain, just to make sure that she stays in power. These guys want to stay in power forever. So I think we've covered this. It's a Friday. As I said, within the next 1 hour, I'm going to release the voice note by Bishop Nyamakanga, who is giving an update on what has happened with the protest. There's going to be a protest against Mnangagwa between the 17th of August and the 19th of August. I'm going to be around in Zimbabwe during that time to make sure that we cover this. But before that, there's going to be trips to SADC, trips to other international organizations, and I'm going to be in the UK. Let's make sure that this happens. Let's make sure we support the effort by the churches. The churches have said this situation cannot continue. And as I said to you, a letter has been delivered to Mnangagwa yesterday. A letter has been delivered to Chamisa. A letter has been delivered to ZEC. And all this is, things are starting to move. So play your part. Do not sit back when other young people are working on making a massive system change in Zimbabwe. So let's go to the comments. Mkoma Patrick, you're saying morning Gambakwe, and morning to everyone here. Thank you very much for your support. We're doing very, very well. We're getting 50,000 people here a day, and I really appreciate all your support. And then Mkoma be saying Mnangagwa, dear president, dear minister, dear driver, where's Zupko? Mnangagwa is everything, but it's not going to work. The humiliation that Mnangagwa is facing, for example, in places like South Korea, is bringing him down to earth. And it's clear that whatever Mnangagwa is trying to do won't work. His projects are not finishing. Everything that Mnangagwa is touching is failing and said. And then Mkoma Basera is saying, morning Mkoma Gambakwe, police Munuma one. I'll send you details. Thank you. Send me as much details as possible. But as I said, we are going to force the situation, especially with the murder of Pastor Tafmani Masaya. We're not going to stop. We're going to make sure that eventually the perpetrators are brought to justice. And then Mkoma Maferakureva says, hello, Mr. Gambakwe, inobudira strike iya yaita zvokurongwa pachinengwa kudai. Yes, so that's what I'm saying. What we're doing now is a totally different direction. Everything's going to be done in the open. We need everything to be well organized, and it's going to be done. You'll be surprised what is going to happen. People are used to things being done in the dark. That's why they don't function. The reason why people do things in the dark is because they don't want to be accountable for the results. If you plan everything in the open, then you are responsible. So if something fails, I'm responsible. And all the other guys, and Bishop Nyamakanga, they are responsible. But you know one thing? If you don't try, 2040, you are still going to be living in your apartment in the UK, and the only day you're going to come back to Zimbabwe will be in a box. And this is not a, a threat. I just want to make sure that you understand what is the implication of sitting back and doing nothing and expecting Chamisa to do everything. So don't expect Chamisa to do everything. You need to participate. When Bishop Nyamachkanga calls a demonstration, when the churches call a demonstration, don't sit over there and think someone else is going to do it. You need to do it. You're part of the solution. And Mkoma Washington is saying what you are going to be reporting on when the situation changes for the good in Zimbabwe. Mkoma Washington, you see me, I've been 16 years running Gambakwe Media. And there is not going to be a day when I fail to find something to report. I'm not reporting only the negative things about Zimbabwe. The thing is, Zimbabwe is in a mess. So everything that Mnangagwa is doing is a mess. So that is what I'm going to be reporting. And eventually we're going to create a media industry in Zimbabwe. We're going to make things function. The reason why you see so many people interested in what we're doing is because we're genuine, we are there, we're present, and we do this with minimal resources. So the energy that we are putting into this is amazing. You saw me here less than 4 hours ago, and we've been doing this since December. I've been streaming here every day. We've had more than 200 continuous streams since December. That's amazing. And so that is what we need. So we need to change our country, and we need to create a new order. What does it mean, a new order? It means things that have not been working, they must go. We need to create success, and we want to paint a picture for you that will show you what can happen. Zimbabwe can become one of the best countries, and you need people to do what we're doing in media now everywhere else. So we want people to take their energy and direct it in the right direction. And I'm very happy that Bishop Nyamachkanga has taken leadership, and I call upon everybody else to take leadership. Do not sit back and expect anyone else to do the work for you, and no one is going to kill you. You're going to see me on the 16th, on the 17th, on the 18th and 19th of August in Zimbabwe, and you see me alive in 2040. No one is going to kill me. No one is going to jail me. Do not be afraid. The ZANU-PF guys have got no right to arrest someone for nothing. And as long as we're here, we're going to make sure that they're going to be brought to account. If police refuse us, let us also write to the army and every security detail. As I said, we don't want the army involved here. My army brothers, sit back. We're going to do work for you. We don't want anyone from the army. This doesn't need the army. The churches are going to do a good job, and I believe the direction that Bishop Nyamachkanga is taking is the right direction. I know that Chamisa has been informed, and I know that Chamisa is mentioned, the Zimbabwe Intercessors Movement. All the political parties are involved. We've got a group of all the opposition leaders. But as I said, we have to overcome the fear of the unknown, and build your country. Don't let one family ruin the country. So Auxilia Mnangagwa, what she's trying to do, she is going to ruin the whole of Zimbabwe. Do not allow her to ruin the country. Protest. You must protest. Protesting is not peaceful. So do not think protesting is peaceful. It's a demand. It's not a begging. So you're not going to go begging to say, please do this, please do this, please Sadak, do this. It's a push, and the push is going to take time for us to get a new Zimbabwe. Right, I'd like to thank everyone for watching here. I now need to go to gym time. So I'll see you guys tonight as we continue to every day look at what needs to happen for the demonstration to succeed. Please go and make your donations for our travel costs. So we're going to go to SADC, we're going to go to the UK, and I'm going to be helping the guys there with coverage so that you know exactly what is going to be happening. So I'm going to travel, I'm going to embed with that team that is going to be traveling all over the place. I'm also going to eventually be in Zimbabwe in August. So we need traveling funds, which is about 20,000 US dollars. And for today, we're going to be supplying the bishop with some money for printing. And after some time, we're obviously going to form up a proper platform where you can all be aware of what is happening on a daily basis. So this is the paper address over here. And as I said, we've got people that we're talking to who have promised Kuti they can assist us with the moving around, because we need to be on the ground to make sure that everyone is aligned. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and a good